This is 8 News Now Raiders pregame live.
Knowing your story as I do and following you for years, when life throws you a curveball, okay, perhaps 1990, UNLV Duke, what'd you do with that curveball? You hit it out of the park. How?
Well, you know, now being a Montana gal, you would understand this. Mm-hmm. When you get thrown off a horse, what you do is get up, dust yourself off, and get back in the saddle.
Where do they go from here? I'm glad you asked. The Raiders are looking to sweep the Broncos, save a .500 season, and put a hard-nosed, disciplined game on tape as a jump-off point for the offseason, a much longer offseason than the Raiders had hoped for. But Las Vegas can still finish second in the AFC West and have a little bounce to their step, knowing that early mid-season success was legit. Learning how to win situational ball, where every play, every mistake is magnified, that's one point of emphasis, not only this week, but every week in the National Football League. Monday, Jon Gruden detailed how the Raiders entered this season working to make Las Vegas better. It's always been community first for this organization. No entitlement. The silver and black moved to town, put their heads down, and went to work. While the Raider fans I've spoken with are disappointed as they saw the potential of this team. They lived it. But here we are. In Week 17, given the global landscape, that's pretty remarkable. First TV timeout Saturday night, the scoreboard at Allegiant Stadium flashed a graphic for the 2022 NFL Draft, followed by the 2022 Pro Bowl. Las Vegas will, of course, host both events. This too shall pass, and when it does, the Raiders will be stronger from it. All of us will be stronger. Molly Sullivan, 8 Sports Now.
Let's go to Molly Sullivan, who joins us in studio. And good morning, Molly.
Good morning, Chris. We have a lot to talk about. It's been just under 12 hours since the Raiders left the field at Allegiant Stadium for the final time this season. A difficult loss, any way you slice it. And to those of you kicking it with us right now, you, my friends, are the real ones. Entering Saturday night, the Raiders had to win out to reach the postseason for the first time since 2016, while the Miami Dolphins and the Baltimore Ravens both had to lose out. Now, I know our Brandon Marshall was all over the Raiders defense last night, but they did make several key stops. Rod Marinelli, in his first full week of preparation, had them clicking and playing disciplined. They held Miami to 121 yards of total offense in the first half. The Raiders also recorded 3 sacks, only allowing the Dolphins to convert 5 of 15 third down attempts, third best rate of the season at 33%. It simply wasn't enough, Chris.
About that, too, running through your mind last night as the clock kind of ticked down. What were you thinking there, Molly?
Well, I looked right over to you in the press box, Chris, as Ryan Fitzpatrick has started warming up on the sideline with around 10 minutes to play in the game. It was a similar situation that the Dolphins found themselves in against the Broncos in Week 11. So with 9:47 to play in a 3-point game, the 16-year vet put on his helmet. If you're the Raiders, it's not the most welcoming sight. But, Chris, what I respect most about Jon Gruden is that he is a man of his word. He stands by his decisions, staying with his players, his team. I would take my chances with 19 seconds in the lead every time. You just hope that your defense holds up.
You know, I think I would, too. And what else stood out in the game to you as it unfolded over that Saturday night?
Well, this is where I utilize a John Madden, yeah, but I don't know if we've ever seen an NFL team go 0 for 10 on third down. The red zone offense only scored 1 touchdown on 4 trips. Now Miami is the #1 scoring defense in the league. The Raiders knew their execution would need to be on point. The Dolphins are also a top 5 team in the amount of pressure they bring, a top 3 team in red zone touchdowns allowed. Derek Carr admitting after the game that he would have ran when the pocket collapsed if he was at 100. But listen, D. Carr is a gamer, playing through pain once again this season.
All right, last week we learned that Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs both elected to the Pro Bowl team. And how about that, the play of 2 of those Pro Bowlers?
Yeah, can we talk about Darren Waller? Who can stop Las Vegas's Pro Bowl tight end? Who can defend him? Doubled, he makes a play. Lined up wide, in motion, Darren Waller is unguardable. After his record-breaking game Saturday night, Gruden called Waller one of the best players he's ever seen in football. Not tight ends, football players, period. And then Las Vegas's other Pro Bowler, running back Josh Jacobs, with some nifty runs early, showing his IQ. But I did notice, Chris, and you noticed as well, he was late coming out of the locker room at the half. That said, Jacobs did take the first offensive snap of the second half, picked up 8 yards. Gruden said post-game he wasn't feeling well and did, in fact, take an IV during the game. That explains his limited carries. As for the Pro Bowl snubs, you got to go straight to Rodney Hudson. If he's not the best center in the league, he's a top 3. Derek Carr calling him the smartest mind he's ever played with, and he's not the only one, Chris.
All right, thank you very much, Molly. You know that red zone inefficiency is going to be driving John Gruden nuts. We'll check back with you.
Abram went on to say that the Kelsey play with 28 seconds left on the clock, yeah, that one. It didn't dominate the film sessions this week. Abram said that may be the play that you remember, but inside the Raiders locker room, they viewed it as a, quote, correction. They fixed it and moved on. Enter Falcons quarterback Matt Ryan with career game number 200 on deck today. He's also coming off his lowest graded game since 2013. Now, Ryan has been sacked 27 times this season, 8 of which came last week versus the Saints. So you know that the Raiders have to be licking their chops at this one. They've got 11 sacks in 10 games this season. Only Jacksonville has fewer, but it's going to take more than that. As John Gruden said, they're 3-7. That's a joke. They're the best 3-7 team I've seen. Now, to be fair, Chris, you know that Gruden views every opponent as dangerous. It's all part of his process and that championship mindset.
Your return to football, I'm told, Brent, can be traced back to a Golden Knights game. So here you are, right? And you cross paths with owner Mark Davis. What can you share about that conversation? How did he convince you to come out of retirement and call all of these games for the Las Vegas Raiders?
Molly, I was just merely introducing Mark to a friend of mine, Derek Stevens, who owns the newly developed Circa along with the D and Golden Gate in downtown Las Vegas. I just wanted to introduce them. And I walked away from the two of them and I went back to Mrs. Stevens, and she and I were finishing up a drink before they dropped the puck. And when I went back over to get Derek to go out because it was time for the game to start, Mark Davis looked up at me and he said, "Would you be interested in broadcasting Raider games?"
You touched on Vegas Sports and Information Network. Essentially, it started somewhat as a family business, right? Who else has a studio in the middle of a casino? Not just any casino. You go from South Point to Circa. You're making moves. And Las Vegas, we know better than anybody, right, Brent, how taboo sports betting once was. Now it's part of the conversation. What are your thoughts going forward in the direction that everything is going?
Well, I'm really happy that it's out of the back alleys because I knew it was always there.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in Chicago. I was around guys that bet all the time, okay? And then Jimmy the Greek came on board, and I learned more and more about gambling, coming out here and visiting him in Las Vegas and being around it.
You've had the best seat in the house for nearly, 6 decades? And you talk about those national assignments, those network assignments. They're great. But working for the team, having that access, I know you and John Gruden go way back, having a coach like him where you can, get in his ear and really pick his brain. What is that like working directly with the team, Brent? How different is it?
I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Well, Molly, according to John Gruden, Derek Carr played almost flawless against the Chiefs on Sunday. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, I'm going to turn to Pro Football Focus on this one because they said it was the highest graded game by any quarterback this season. Derek Carr was in total control. Show me a game that had better all-around quarterback play than what we saw together at Allegiant Stadium in Week 11. Beyond that, because there is less crowd noise this season, everybody on the field is essentially mic'd up. And Carr mentioned this week that he has yet to use his, quote, dad voice with a young team. Everybody is all in, right? Do your job is Carr's message to him. And beyond that as well, the audibles by number 4. We've got Cindy Gruden, Tiger Woods, James Harden. He didn't pass the ball. Purple Walrus. Call it what you want, Chris.
All right. So, hey, Molly, Raiders defense really has been its weakness. But today we'll line up and put some pressure on Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, Chris, it's like one big job interview, right? Turning a weakness into a strength after the message John Gruden sent Monday. The defense has a lot to prove, and that's the beauty of the game we all love. Slowing down the Browns' offense starts with stopping the run. Kevin E. will enjoy this Ron Earhart line. Throw to score, run to win, meaning you start fast and then take the air out of the ball. We know Cleveland likes to pound the rock, but Las Vegas is poised to ace this test, Chris.
All right, Brandon, the same team that won a single game all season just a few years ago.
Yeah, Chris, that lone win season in 2016 was slightly better than going 0-16 the following year. Your buddy Hugh Jackson can certainly attest to that. The Browns have had 12 consecutive losing seasons and last made the playoffs in 2002. The same year, the Raiders won the AFC Championship. Now, Cleveland has won 5 of their first 7 games, but only one of those victories came against a team with a winning record. In losses to the Steelers and Ravens, the combined score was 76-13. As for the Raiders, they've gone toe-to-toe with the very best, facing 3 of the top 7 scoring offenses in the league. While you're letting that sink in, keep in mind, on Monday, John Gruden told us that changes were going to be made to the Raiders' defense. Everything from scheme to personnel groupings, play calling.
You go back to the Billings Gazette, right, and studying those box scores, and you're so authentic. You're so, just in your approach, you're so relatable. You know, I mentioned welcome to Las Vegas, folks. I mean, folks is one thing. You sit down, you have the ability to make each and every game feel like it is the biggest, most important event of our lifetime. And that's the beauty of it. What goes into your delivery? Because you are so authentic, so perhaps that's a difficult question to kind of bottle up. But what goes into that, Brent?
Well, you know, I approach every game as the most important. And I feel that I have an obligation to the audience that's out there at the time. They're coming to spend their valuable time. Now much of it is escapist, I understand, from the regular routine of life in general, okay? But I owe them the best presentation that I can make to tell them the truth of what's going on with their team at the time, and to enjoy it and to be excited with this. I know that it does not have extreme lasting importance, but I am well aware of the entertainment value of the National Football League.
If anybody's going to find a way to get the job done, it's going to be Tracy Wolfson. So we're in good hands on Sunday.
Well, you know what?
On CBS.
You're actually right, because I think it challenges you more as a reporter. And
Just reliability. I mean, what is a better compliment than your quarterback being like, yo, he's going to be there. He's going to catch the ball. He's going to win the ball game. Is there anything better than that as a wide receiver, as a human being?
No, not at all, believe me. And the thing about it is that, you know, when you're a wide receiver, you really have to understand what that quarterback is going through.
Our Raider reporter Molly Sullivan sat down with the Raider legend, joins us now on set with more, with what he has to say about the new era of Raiders football.
Good morning, Chris. 8 Sports Now not only scored an exclusive interview with Fred Biletnikoff, but we also spoke with his son, Fred Biletnikoff Jr., who is the athletic director at Henderson International School and the head football coach at Coronado High School. Now, I could rattle off Freddie B's resume, but if you're kicking it with us here on Raiders Pregame Live, you already know how his hands helped build the franchise. All Fred Biletnikoff does is win. In his 14 years with the Raiders, he never had a losing season, in part because he simply never wanted to let his teammates down.
If I was an offensive lineman and a guy went out there and dropped the ball after I was pass protecting like crazy, I'd want to choke him.
Oh, man, you're not competitive, huh? Not at all. No, not at all.
We just love people.
A simple yet powerful statement that defines the Biletnikoff family. Fred Biletnikoff Jr. grew up on the Raiders sideline with former head coach John Madden in his ear, even standing right by his father's side postgame in the locker room as he was interviewed by reporters. Listening, learning with a shared love for the game. At one point, Gruden asked Mariota, "How do you stay so calm all the time, man? Does anything bother you?" Mariota replied, "Losing." Gruden's eyes lit up, and he's not the only one. Fast forward to his first day in Las Vegas this past spring after spending the previous 5 seasons with the Tennessee Titans. Mariota said, "This is about me becoming the best quarterback I can be." With that said, health and confidence are 2 areas the Raiders organization targeted as needing to be rebuilt. The team kept him on ice until he was fully recovered. Mariota used the word patient when describing his return to play program, but Kev, it's certainly paying off.
It certainly is. And Molly, looking back to Marcus Mariota's 2014 Heisman Trophy season at Oregon, you covered him as a sideline reporter for the Pac-12 Network. How have you seen his game evolve since entering the NFL?
Well, Kev, there's such a quiet confidence about number 8 that you just want to bottle up. I can tell you that he's always given such thoughtful answers. It's not just about checking boxes. And there's also something to be said about stepping up when you are needed the most. Thursday night, he was outstanding from the jump. John Gruden said it was an exclamation point on why the Raiders signed him, showing flashes of brilliance, much like what we saw in Eugene.
Molly, I'm going to start with you. We just heard from Ron. The defense absolutely has to get after Tua. Nothing easy for the rookie QB, but that's easier said than done, right?
Yeah, how about that Ron Futrell saying with their Southern California cool that the Raiders just need to get to Tua and take him down? He's not wrong, but first things first, this is a depleted unit, down 4 starters and another 2 key players Thursday night. It was the penalties that really hurt the Raiders the most. Rod Marinelli made his debut as a defensive coordinator with no time to really implement any major schematic changes, playing disciplined football, Raider football. That's what Marinelli's group is focused on.
And your thoughts, they have to get pressure on Tua.
Yeah, they have to.
And I feel like we discuss this every week. The Raiders' run game, or lack thereof, Josh Jacobs had a couple nice runs against the Chargers, but the Raiders' offense still looking for more consistency on the ground, especially if Mariota is the starter against Miami. How important is it to get the rush going early and often in this one to take some pressure off of him in his first start in the NFL in over a year, Molly?
Yeah, you're on it, Kevany. The Raiders had not surpassed 100 rushing yards in their previous 4 games entering Thursday night. Against the Chargers, they rushed for 173 yards, 4.2 yards per rush. As Josh Jacobs told us postgame, Mariota makes the defense honest. He keeps them off balance. 88 yards on 9 carries. 8 of those attempts resulted in a first down. He added 1 rushing touchdown, of course, not too shabby for the, dare I say, flying Hawaiian. Las Vegas' own Shane Victorino probably wants to have a word with me, huh?
I love it.
The Colts defense routinely gets 7, 8, 9 men to the ball. They don't make mistakes. They don't give up big plays. They are consistent. Gruden went on to say they're going to make us go the long, hard way. Now, with that said, they also gave up 45 points to the Titans 2 weeks ago, 31 points to the Packers the week prior. Both of those teams, Chris, obviously have an elite offense, but so do the Raiders.
Yeah, they certainly do. Now, the Raiders know well they need to get a good performance up front from both sides of the ball. So as they prepare now for this battle in the trenches, what is the point of emphasis this week in practice?
Well, as John Gruden said, we feed our families with our running game. 10th in the league in rushing yards per game. When the Raiders run, that sets up everything. Yeah, you got it, Chris. I spoke to Atlanta Hawks head coach Lloyd Pierce, but it wasn't exactly behind enemy lines. Pierce is a lifelong Raiders fan. He was born and raised in the Bay Area, so he not only understands the dynamics from a coaching standpoint in this matchup, but also as a proud member of the nation. We discussed how the Falcons have gone 3-2 since Morris took over by not only tightening up the defense, but also Pierce detailed to 8 Sports Now how when there is a coaching change, you can't just completely start over and hit the reset button. There has to be a calculated mix of what has worked along with your own philosophy. Now, this is something that Morris tried to strike, that balance in Tampa Bay, as he was John Gruden's assistant for 6 seasons before ultimately taking over as a head coach in 2009 when John Gruden, of course, took the high road up to the broadcast booth. But in terms of how this Falcons team has changed since week 5, Lloyd Pierce, as he always does, kept the focus within. He's all about maintaining that edge, much like John Gruden, and said, we just need to handle business. And that we, Chris, is deeply away. You know, you can study the championship run of any team, and the ability to go from good to great is that great teams win the games they're supposed to win. Sunday is only the 2nd time this season where the Raiders are favored. In fact, it's one of 3 games that the Desert had circled prior to this season as being the smart money, meaning that they were picked to win. But listen, you can call it what you want. You can say what you want. Derek Carr told us again this week, Chris and Brandon, we don't care. This is a team that does not quit, a franchise that was built on toughness and competing. And really this season, it's a testament to John Gruden and his coaching staff and their ability to keep the locker room together. As Gruden told us on Monday, listen, adversity sometimes is a perception.
Allegiant Stadium for Molly's final thoughts on this huge game. Molly.
Well, John Gruden said it's clear Philip Rivers has more fun playing football than most guys he knows, and we should know Gruden knows a lot of guys who love playing football. He even wrote a book on it. Gruden went on to say Rivers wants to beat us in the worst way. Now, there is no one outside of the Raiders organization that knows this team better than Rivers does. No one has faced the Raiders more than Philip Rivers has, but it goes both ways. Disguising the blitz, disguising this scheme, the Raiders know they're going to have to put on a show. I asked our Sasha Loftus, who she thought is the top magician on the strip these days. We both went with Chris Angel. So think mind freak Raider style when dealing with a QB that has seen it all. You know, the headlines may suggest that this is an angry Chiefs football team, but imagine being locked up all week and then being cleared to play football just hours before the world champions walk into your house. It's the everything is against us card. In the Raiders case, it's real. And it's working.
But first, let's check in with Molly Sullivan, who is at Raiders headquarters in Henderson there, with her thoughts on how this season-ending game could spill over into next year's plans. And good morning to you, Molly.
Good morning, Chris. Before we break down today's game, it's important to acknowledge how we got here. To play the entire NFL season, 256 games, it took the entire NFL family doing their part to protect each other. The league has done a phenomenal job working collectively. This is a response that started back in March, and as the situation with COVID-19 evolved, so too did the league's safety measures. Now, football during the pandemic looks different, just as life is different. To play this NFL season, it took those medical experts developing the safety protocols. It took cleaning crews sanitizing each and every surface, athletic trainers monitoring the testing and screening. It even took engineers developing innovative ways to tackle new challenges. And the NFL's chief medical officer, Dr. Alan Sills, along with medical experts across the league, implemented the playbook of all playbooks. And Chris, I think back to the summer and heading into week one, we had countless production meetings where the big question was, can the NFL pull this off? Can this really work? What would football look like in the world of the coronavirus? Questions also swirled about how players would be affected, not only physically, but mentally. Committees were put in place where all the facts were on the table with a focus on the league's 2,200 players and approximately 4,000 personnel and staff. And just because this is week 17, we all know this is not over. The reps will continue long after the bright lights turn off. Now, the players I spoke with throughout this season all share very similar mindsets. Nobody wants to be that guy, meaning the guy that lets their guard down and does something irresponsible where the virus is allowed to spread not only within their team, but within their community. And I think that NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell said it best. He said that everybody has made sacrifices to keep this season on track. The biggest takeaway, Chris, is their moxie. You get the sense here on the sideline at practice that the team looks at number 4 and says, hey, that's my quarterback. Derek Carr is manipulating the defense with MVP-type poise, and now the Raiders have an opportunity to win 3 straight games against the AFC West for the first time in a single season since, get this, the 2010 campaign. And in a loaded AFC, Chris, that means something.
All right,
the Chargers have set an NFL record for heartbreak this season, becoming the first team in league history to lose 4 straight games after leading by at least 16 points. All 5 of their losses have been one-score games. Dating back to last year, the Chargers are 3-14 in one-score games, historic heartbreak, and yet they are a dangerous 2-5 team, as you never want to be the club that helps your opponent heal and figure things out. Just ask the man to your left, Chris.
That is right. Hey, we've seen the Raiders.
A fascinating conversation with one of the greatest to ever play the game. And then how about Freddie Jr. paying it forward locally with young student athletes?
Spoke of owner Mark Davis and the job that he's done. Logistically, Tracy, this really, could be a case study, not only to move an entire franchise, right, but to move it in the middle of a pandemic, open a new stadium. Everything has been seamless. He is so in touch with our community, the job that he's done, but also Mike Mayock and what he's built. And you got John Gruden dialing it all up. How do you best put a bow on everything that the Raiders are doing in the future of this franchise?
I think it's all clicking at the right time. And
we can't wait to have you on the broadcast only on CBS. And we can't wait to welcome your 3 sons and your husband to Las Vegas when we finally get a game here. So thank you so much for your time.
They will definitely be joining me. I appreciate it, Molly. Thanks for everything.
To get back on the field. Hey, Molly.
Hey, Chris, thank you very much. I was at the Raiders Intermountain Healthcare Performance Center on Friday as right tackle Trent Brown and rookie receiver Henry Ruggs III were both full participants at practice. Both expected to play today, barring any setbacks. Let's start with HR3.
You may recall Raiders owner Mark Davis declaring on April 28, 2016, that he wanted the Silver State to become the Silver and Black State. Well, mission complete. As you can see, the fans here. As UNLV basketball, there was a time where that was the hottest ticket in town. And I'm talking hotter than, say, Frank Sinatra, who, oh, by the way, was a big fan of UNLV running Rebels back in the day, right? But now that genuine star power is back. There is a type of swagger with the organization that just fits Las Vegas. It just feels right. So the fans that I spoke with today at Allegiant Stadium, yes, they are disappointed that they are not inside watching their Raiders in this home debut, but in the same breath, guys, they also understand the decision that the Raiders organization is committed to the health of not only their players, their coaches, their staff, the facility workers, but all of our neighbors, right, in the community. So, listen, good things come to those who wait, and I think the franchise, they did things the right way. Mark Davis, that's all he does. Moved in, it was community first. There's no entitlement. They didn't move to town and say, hey, you know, let's be a fan just because we're here. They did things the right way. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I got to tell you an anecdote about Mark.
Within your first year as a sports reporter, sports writer in Chicago, the Bears went on to win the championship. Perhaps some good storylines there. What'd you learn about yourself in that first year?
Well, full disclosure, I probably haven't told anybody this, but when the American sent me out, and it was after they'd been beaten badly by the 49ers, there was an incident involving the beat writer and Coach Hallis. I never knew for sure what it was. And they pointed at me. I covered some baseball, and they said, go to Wrigley Field, go meet Mr. Hallis. You're covering the next game. So I said, okay, sure. And pretended like, yeah, I know what's going on. I had never seen an NFL game in person in my life, okay? Okay. So now, they practiced as well as played games in Wrigley Field. So there was a gate out there in left field, and that was very close to where the Bears came out. Mr. Hallison, in that familiar costume, a suit, you know, with the hat, the fedora on, was standing there, and I went up and I introduced myself, and he said, young man, call me young man. Young man, that's Doug Atkins. And of course, I knew that was their best defensive end. He said, he has a bad knee, and so he doesn't practice with us during the week, but I make him come to be around us, and I allow him to hunt the pigeons. It's a true story, okay?
Keep that eye discipline. Got to have that eye discipline, right?
6'8", okay?
Yeah.
And those pigeons were in deep trouble up there, okay, for about 30 minutes. And the old Wrigley Field, before they remodeled it, you know, the pigeons fly in there. So I'll never forget my introduction to the National Football League.
Circumstances may change, but the job does not change. That was General Manager Mike Mayock's message to Derek Carr early and often this season. And the job is not done yet.
Thank you very much, Molly. I absolutely love that outfit. Nice job. It's a Raider outfit if there ever was one. We'll check back with you a little bit later in the show.
But now, right? The Jets at some point are going to figure things out and find that win column. Not today. We've got the original Al Davis Memorial Torch here behind us in recognition of his legendary vision. The fire that burns the brightest in the Raiders organization is the will to win, and that is the perfect way to wrap up. 8 Sports Now has you covered every step of the way. What a meaningful season it's really been. Thanks for kicking it with us every NFL Sunday.
You wanted this first year in Las Vegas, right? We all did. I moved from Philadelphia, Brent. I wanted to be here too, right by your side, you know? So now what? You wanted this first year, now what?
Let's go to the second year, but let's get fans inside the stadium, Molly.